Welcome to the 34th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today we're going over the fall 2017 season's third week of shows. And since you purchased the season pass for this podcast, we'll throw in the fourth week of shows as a bonus. Almost free. Just with a small microtransaction. Just as a reminder, we also always include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and in the podcast feed if you wish to just hear about a few of the shows we're talking about, because we spoil literally everything. My name is Bcom, and I wrote a song about a tortilla, but actually it's a little bit more of a rap.
That was terrible. You know what else is terrible? Black Clover. Okay, like I'm just like, okay, so you've watched Bleach, correct?
Sure, yeah.
So they're doing the whole captain thing with the squads again.
Okay,
that's nothing new. Did you watch Fairy Tail?
No, I haven't seen any of Fairy Tail.
Okay, well, anyways, in Fairy Tail, there's this person, part of their guild. Her name's Kana, and she has like brown, shoulder-length, sort of curly hair, and she walks around in a tube top and pants and drinks the entire time. Well, in Black Clover, they have this exact same character, except they just took the pants off and she's just in her bra and panties, and they changed her hair color pink. So that was crazy. But even better yet, they added a second character that takes every opportunity to scream their lines. So there's literal conversations between Asta and this guy, and they're just yelling at each other in a common conversation. But at least his yelling isn't as bad as Asta's, because Asta's has a yeah at the end, and then he's just your normal yeller. But
ridiculous. And
it's just everything it does. I'm like, I can either say it was Naruto, Bleach, or Fairy Tail. Oh, and then they had another character whose design looks so much like somebody from D. Gray Man, the twin ponytail girl. Okay. Like, if you put them side by side, like I feel like somebody almost copied it.
Oh wow, well that's bad. Yeah, like that show just seemed like it was copying all of the other shonen and not doing like literally anything new.
It's not doing anything new. If you've seen, like I said, Bleach, Naruto, Fairy Tail, and because I like those, I mean, guess I'm enjoying it, except for the voice acting, but it's not being original at all. But I am also caught up on Garo Vanishing Line.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
Pretty good. I like it.
That's good.
Still not sure you're still not sure what's going on, but it's not like need to know information. So
yeah, it's just fun to watch. Like good animation, right?
Have you watched anything else not on our list?
Not recently. Well, hold on. I slightly kept up with all a Little Sister's All You Need, but like I'm still pretty far behind on that.
Oh, I was watching that earlier today while I was waiting on you to finish up your shows, but it's just flat out boring sometimes.
Yeah. That's basically how I felt about like Arrow Manga Sensei. Remember near the end too, is that it just got boring.
Well, I messaged you and I'm like, we're literally doing an episode about accounting right now.
Oh god damn it.
And the accountant is a 34-year-old lolly.
Oh, terrible.
It makes sure at the very end of the episode to make sure you know she's 34.
Watashi wa 34. Yeah, I'm sure that happened. Yeah.
All right, you ready to start some shows?
That's par for the course with those kinds of shows, I guess.
Yeah.
Dumb. All right, so should we get into the shows that we're actually watching?
Go for it.
So, up first on Sundays, we've got Animegataris, and we've got episode 3 starting off, which was called Erica, Cosplayer X Cosplayer. So yeah, they found their 6 members in the first 2 episodes, but the student council is like still standing in their way. The student council is definitely like the evil force in this anime who are trying to like block them from forming their club. And they're all kind of depressed because like the student council is basically like, you can't form an anime club even though they have all the members. And so they go to Akihabara to just like blow off steam and have fun. And so we sort of learn a little bit more about the characters this way. Like Erica, who's one of the girls in the group, and I guess she's the club president because she's a senior.
Yep.
They go to a cosplay shop with her, and she's really into cosplaying, and like she shows off like this dub tone quote unquote outfit, which is like a Love Live cosplay, and just she completely like transforms her voice and starts posing and all this stuff, and I also liked there was like a one-liner about how Manoa should cosplay Nakamushi Saddle, which is like a good pun on Yowamushi Pedal. And like after that, they hit up another shop called Anime Soul, which is very much similar to the Animate chain of stores that's located all over Tokyo and stuff. And there's definitely one in Akihabara and has like 8 floors of different merchandise and stuff. And they definitely showed that. I laughed really hard because there was like on one of the floors they had this like light novel banner that just had like a title that was a certain report on the irresponsible and depressing chronicles of me and a certain eccentric childhood friend.
I laughed too. I was
just like, I love parodies of shitty light novel titles. I'll never not laugh.
This whole show just has a lot of fun with doing that shit.
Yeah, 100%. And so they leave Akiba, and Erica's wondering. Oh, well, like by the way, when they're in the Anime Soul store, that's when Kai, or Kai as they like to nickname him, like talks about a little bit how he's like really into like dark fantasy, like battle anime or whatever. And so he's trying to like show them why he likes it so much. He's like looking at a poster of this cute girl, and like Manoa, he gets embarrassed because like Manoa comes up behind him and he's like, no, I like her like for her character or something. Like, I don't know. It was funny. But yeah, they leave Akiba, and Erica wonders like if they should just continue the anime club informally outside of school. But Arisu and Miko are really opposed to the idea because their favorite slice of life anime had everybody talking to each other in a club room. So this leads Kai to talk about how the show got dropped by a lot of people after the 3rd episode because it was too boring. And then a whole conversation about what the 3rd episode rule is in anime. And they have like all these references to like Madoka and Love Live because they're like, yeah, like the show can change completely after the 3rd episode like it did in Madoka. And they show like a little brief scene of like fake Madoka. And then like in Love Live, they're like, yeah, like the whole group comes together and they perform their big concert, but nobody shows up. And that's a total Love Live thing. So that was really cute.
It's so awesome that they talked about the 3-episode rule in the 3rd episode.
Yeah, it confirms that Japan knows. Japan knows that there's a 3-episode rule. They're very aware of that. So yeah, you will see things in 3rd episodes very often. So when they get back to school, they find that the student council has now decided to put the abolishment of the anime club to a resolution. And the older students basically expected this, Erica and Kai, but Manoa doesn't want their dream to end. And so she gives this like speech, and it's totally like straight out of Love Live. You would hear this type of speech. Like we have to like come together and like, you know, save our club kind of thing. And so like they're like, oh, well, somebody should actually give like a real speech to like the audience at this like resolution. And they're like, you should do it, Manoa. And so she gets pushed into doing it. But she gets really nervous, and Arisu wrote the script for this speech, and it's pulled straight from anime, and it doesn't have the same effect on real people as you would expect. So like they just end up like falling. It ends up falling flat. And the student council president's argument is that like the anime club is basically worthless because anime itself is full of empty and worthless stories, which I can't disagree with completely. But Kai, he takes off his glasses, which unleashes his secret power, and he takes the microphone and he defends anime and tells everybody how much he loves like secret power battle shows and how you learn about justice and friendship and perseverance from watching and discussing them. And that wins about half of the male vote in the audience. And then when he finishes speaking, he falls into Koki, the big, like the tall blonde kid's arms. And the girl, like half of the girls in the audience, like the Fujoshi girls, all swoon. So that gets them enough of the vote that they can win. And they can win the resolution. And the student council goes home angry. So that was the 3rd episode. It was really fantastic. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I said in my notes, I love that they talked about 3-episode rule and then they followed through with it on themselves.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I'm watching episode 4. I really like the title for this episode. Club Room Go Boom is a nice title. I gotta say, I don't know why I noticed it particularly on this episode, but I really love the OP for this show. It just makes me start dancing every time.
It is really good. Yeah, this one, there's 3 for me that stand out. It's Animegataris.
Yeah.
It's MMO Junkie is probably my favorite one.
Oh, the guitar part is nice in that.
Oh,
yeah.
it's stuck in my head all week, and I don't care. It's fine. I'm fine with that. And then the Girls' Last Tour. All right.
Yeah, I like that OP too. I actually really like the ED for that show.
3 as they're singing together, and I don't know what they're saying, but I'm like, I like this.
And then they dab in the middle of it. It's great.
Do they dab? I've not paid.
They do dab. There's like a brief frame of them dabbing. It's fantastic.
Oh,
so.
no. Yep. Now that I think about it, I think I know that scene.
So, yeah, in this 4th episode, like there's a Numazon, which is Amazon, delivery man who arrives at the club room, and he has like just a tower of boxes, and Manoa's like, what the hell is going on? And when she opens them all up, it's like this huge Jenga tower of just Blu-rays, anime Blu-rays, that Erusu purchased for the club. And like some of them like start pulling their like favorite Blu-rays out of this tower, and then it starts like falling over. It's kind of funny. But the club members explain to Manoa how anime actually makes money. Like they start breaking down like anime production committees, and then they even compare anime production committees to like a powerful shadow organization like Nerve from Evangelion. And you see like a little shot of that. Because like the anime production committee is the one who like makes all the decisions about like what to make and like how to sell the anime, how to merchandise it, and all that stuff. So anyway, the student council is still trying to take them down, by the way, and barges in, and they say like, look at this receipt. And apparently Erusu spent 341,951 yen on anime Blu-rays, which is a bit over $3,000 US right now. And to be honest, I was looking at this like tower of Blu-rays that she got for $3,000, and I was like, you probably found some pretty good deals, because like I don't have nearly that many Blu-rays, and like some of them are pretty friggin' expensive, like especially in Japan.
I was gonna say
Blu-ray prices are insane.
Japanese version, yeah. Like, and the thing is, what we pay for the entire season, they pay for like 2 or 3 episodes.
Exactly. It's crazy. Like they get really nice quality Blu-rays. Like the Japanese Blu-rays usually have like typically very high bit rate because there's less episodes on a disc. So you get like very high like visual and audio quality on Japanese Blu-rays, but they're so expensive. It's insane. So I was like, good for you, Erusu, but the student council was not having it. Mm-hmm. So the student council president orders them to help other school clubs out for the next week. And if their work isn't satisfactory, they'll be abolished again. So the club president, Erica, like steps in and leads the way, and we see a variety of scenes of them helping out other clubs. She goes to help the baseball club. Yeah, well, they fail, but like I love the part where she's like pitching for the baseball club, and she's got this really cute uniform, and she has really nice pitching form. Let me tell you, like her delivery is it's very nice, and that's said as a former pitcher. Like I'm not even joking. It looks good, but the outcome of her pitching was not fantastic because as nice as her delivery was, it didn't have enough velocity, and she got crushed. So yeah, they screw up helping the baseball club, and then a whole bunch of other clubs. But luckily, they find out that the drama club needs costumes for a performance for new students. And this is where Erica might be able to help out because, you know, she loves cosplay and she loves making costumes. So they decide, like, okay, Erica, you should make costumes, and then that's the way we can help a club out. But she has some like trouble with this in the beginning, and she runs off, and she has a flashback to when she was younger, and she went to a foreign school and was having a lot of trouble making friends there. But she like met 2 girls who spotted, like, she had a sticker on her bag that was for a show called Pre-Fay, which is basically Precure. And she made friends with these girls because they loved cosplaying too, apparently, even though they're from a foreign country. And that gave Erica
America specifically.
Yeah, I think it seemed like America, like for sure.
So that totally makes sense. There is a cosplay scene.
And like that gave her the determination she needed to realize is she can create something new, unlike what the student council president said. And then Koki also tells Erica to take inspiration from his favorite idol anime, Dubtone, which is basically Love Live. And so they watched some of the Dubtone Blu-ray, and I was just dying. It perfectly captures like the over-the-top optimism of idol anime, because like in this episode of this fake anime, the 3 idol girls are like, we need to make costumes, and they go and take axes and just start chopping down trees. And so they chop down trees, and then magically after they chop down the trees, they now have have new beautiful costumes. And that is exactly how idol anime like Love Live work. They do something really stupid and then it all works out. And yeah. So after that, everyone starts working together, just like in an idol anime, and Arisu even turns down Sebastian's help when she like pricks herself with a sewing needle, and she's like, no, I need to make this costume with my own hands. And in the end, the drama club shows off these gorgeous costumes that they made just in time, and they get a huge reception from the audience. And the student council still say the anime club hasn't done enough, but that's where Erika steps in and reminds the president, Tsubaki, that's her name, that they were brought together by anime initially too. And then Tsubaki has like a flashback. They used to pretend that they were characters from Pre-Fey or Precure as little girls, and that's why they originally became friends. And like, so Tsubaki kind of melts a little bit at that, but she's like, you know, we're just different people now. But she says, like, because of the overwhelming reception, though, it's clear you've won this round, and we're not going to abolish the club. And then at the end of the episode, Tsubaki makes like a mysterious phone call to some unknown person saying that I was unable to shut down the anime club. And so there's like some greater plan to shut down this club for some reason that we don't know about yet. And yeah. Oh, there was also, yeah, you mentioned a good reference this episode made.
Oh yeah, the show just loves to reference Konosuba, and I cracked up because I think it was what's her name? Girl I like.
Oh, Aqua.
Not Aqua.
Oh wait, I mean in this show? Well, yeah. It was somebody pretending to be Aqua throwing up.
What she says, I can finally watch the useless goddess barf scenes over and over. And it just
yeah, I think it was Arisu saying that maybe. Or no, maybe it was Mocha. I can't remember.
I think it was Mocha. That's the blue hair girl, right?
Yeah, with like the glasses. Yep. Yeah.
It was her. For sure.
Yeah, I just continue to really enjoy this anime. It's such a good parody, as well as being just really fun at the same time, and I just love all the references. Like it's a good referential humor show, which is nice to see. Haven't seen one of those for a little while.
Talks so much about everything encompassing anime in general, because like this is actually like this is week 8. We're finally doing weeks 3 and 4. So
yeah, we're a little late. We're a little late, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's all I got for that one. You want to move on to Juuni Taisen?
Yeah, so I think I'm starting off with this one. I have episode 3, which is cutting a chicken with a beef cleaver, which might be a bit of a spoiler once you've watched the episode. Yeah. But yeah, in this one we learn the backstory of the chicken warrior, whose name is Niwatori. And her backstory is basically that she went through an extremely traumatic event as a child where she killed and mutilated her own parents who had abused her. And afterwards, she was being monitored in the hospital, but had severe amnesia because of it. And because of that, she apparently developed the ability to communicate with birds, and she can both send and receive information from them. So, like, she can get...
Everybody gets a special ability.
Yeah, and this one's pretty cool, though. Like, it's pretty awesome ability. Mm-hmm. So she's then adopted by this older woman into this family, the Niwa family, and they train her as a warrior, and, like, they make use of her abilities, basically. They're this family that's, like, involved in various conflicts all over the world, presumably for profit, like, behind the scenes. And so basically, yeah, she can essentially use birds as like drones in drone warfare, which is as hilarious as it sounds. Like she'll have birds like scope out areas for her, basically like Bayek in the new Assassin's Creed Origins game, who has like a bird that can like scope and like mark targets. But then she'll have the birds like carry around grenades in their beaks and just drop them on targets she's found. It's so ridiculous. I was laughing so hard. It was great. I loved it. There's this middle section of the episode that shows her double crossing some people to get her hands on some valuable information. But that section of the episode honestly didn't do very much for me. It just showed like she's like a little bit more of like a conniving character when she needs to be.
Yeah, she's got to use her brains.
Yeah, exactly. I would say like at certain points of this episode, you could tell that like it's suffering from quality issues, because like there's some parts where the characters are very roughly drawn. Part of it's the characters' designs though, because like the characters have kind of roughly drawn lines. But like, yeah, there's just sometimes like things don't look good, but then there's other times when it looks fantastic. Like there's like that one scene where Niwatori comes across the zombie version of Boar, who like the rabbit guy made into a zombie.
Yeah.
And attacks Boar with her killing by pecking attack, where she like summons like hundreds of birds that swarm around Boar and just peck her to death. And like Boar resists by like she has these dual heavy machine guns, one in each arm, and she's just like spinning around firing at like this crowd of birds or this flight of birds, whatever. And like it just looks awesome. Like that scene was so awesome looking. I was going crazy because like I love that this anime can reach those heights. It's cool.
What keeps me constantly watching this show is just the concept of it. I really like it. I got to see who wins in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
They really
too.
have to mess something up like really, really bad for me to drop it.
I agree. Yeah, like I'm pretty much hooked at this point.
Yep.
And like so, yeah, the crux of the episode comes when Niwatori runs into the rat warrior at a convenience store, and he's like really chill and laid back and tells Niwatori, "Hey, come with me." Because you raised your hand at that initial meeting when Monkey asked if people wanted to team up and not fight. And so they head back to the hiding place in the sewers, and the tension is pretty high because Niwatori is on her guard and is also constantly considering like whether she should just kill both of them right now. But the monkey just seems genuinely interested in forming the partnership, and Niwatori just can't bring herself to kill her. Niwatori later thinks to herself that maybe the one-man army poison buff, which she got from the dog before killing him, not only raised her power level, but maybe also raised her mental state to one where her brain is now hardwired to want to protect Monkey because she's not a threat. I don't know. That's possible. But like Niwatori basically turns Monkey down and leaves because she just feels uncomfortable. And on her way out, basically runs into the Ox Warrior. And Niwatori's instincts tell her to run away, but she stands her ground against kind of her subconscious will, because when he asks if Monkey is near, she feels very protective. And he like reads her body language like a book. The Ox guy knows how to read you and knows like, oh, are you protecting Monkey? That must mean she's nearby and blah, 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 blah. But then like, yeah, they have like a very brief like conflict, like combat where
he takes her out with one shot.
Yeah, just one blow. Like she's thinking like to herself, like, oh, if I do this and if I hold myself this way, and then he just like lunges at her and like cuts through her with one blow.
He sticks the you get the nice viewpoint of his sword going right between her eyes.
yeah, that's pretty cool actually.
Yeah,
and so yeah, she's killed like instantly, and his catchphrase is "killing systematically."
Yeah.
I thought that her one-man army buff would like give her a shot. Like I thought there'd be a little bit more of a fight, but apparently this guy's just too good.
Yeah, and I guess she didn't even use it. But sorry, she said the birds weren't hungry yet, so she couldn't use it.
Right, she couldn't use them again yet.
But then 20 seconds later, when she's dead, she uses it to. She's like, oh well, there must be hungry now to dismantle herself, which is a good idea because otherwise she'd probably end up as a zombie also.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
She's like, I'll give you birdies one last meal.
And they come and just peck away at her until she's gone, which is crazy.
Basically just dismantle her. You got anything else for episode 3?
Nah, let's go to 4.
All right, episode 4, The Enemy, a Noble Primate. This is a very quick synopsis because there's not much to talk about. Turns out Monkey was trained by 3 other monkeys, and we learned that Rat thinks the world is just full of garbage people. There's also a scene where Monkey does negotiations for like 2 countries at war. But then like she went behind those leaders' backs and convinced both the armies to basically agree to a ceasefire because they were tired of fighting and stuff. But then it turns out the peace wasn't what she wanted. The boar, because you just quick scene of like the boar in the background just walking by had something to do with the rise of like a third faction taking over it all. And so like the monkeys, I kind of laughed at this because like it upsets her and she's at home. And so her coping mechanism apparently is to knead dough and cry into it.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works. And also it turns out she has a husband back home. So that's really cool.
I was very surprised by this because like when you watch anime and you have like a bunch of like fighters and stuff, like typically they don't have like a husband or wife back home waiting for them. Like especially the girls, like usually they're just waifus, and like you wouldn't if you're creating a waifu, you don't write them with a husband back home. Like
right.
That's not the point of a waifu. So like I liked that Monkey has like something that she's like trying to get back to. And something she cares about. That makes her a little bit deeper character for me.
So the show then basically wraps up with Monkey and Rat being forced from the sewers when a giant flock of undead birds forces them out. Wonder who's behind that. So as soon as they get out, it's rabbits waiting for them along with Snake's dead body. And then they start to engage in a battle. And then that's where we stop. This felt
like a very long setup episode for the next episode.
It was just a long setup episode for Monkey. A huge portion of it was just talking about those countries, which really didn't have much to do with what's going on now. It was just more backstory for Monkey, really.
Yeah, and even more so in this episode, I just noticed like the sort of like consistent inconsistency of the art style at times. Just like some stuff just looks really sketch, and then other stuff looks really good, and it's just there's just needs to be like more quality control or something. But otherwise I'm still enjoying the show. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Who's the studio? Graphinica.
Yeah, who haven't done much. Like they've done co-productions of stuff. So this is like their first big show, I would say. So
yeah. You do some just because we can.
Because. All right. So episode 3 of Just Because is called Andante. This actually didn't have like an episode title listed on like Amazon Strike, but at the very end of the episode, they have like a word usually. And so I think this one was called Andante. That's my guess anyway.
Interesting.
So, I love the opening scene of this episode where Aina, the photography girl, is thinking about Eita and then spots him walking down the sidewalk and basically like accosts him and tells him like, stay right there. And then she like, I need to go home and get a photo that I took of you, and like I need you to approve it.
Yeah,
and then it like starts raining.
I really only find the show interesting when she's on screen.
She's probably my favorite character right now too. Yeah. Like it's funny because like she gets on her bike and rides home, and by the time she gets home it's like been raining. She gets off her bike and she's like, oh, I probably should have asked for his phone number or something, because of course he's not going to stay there and wait for her in the rain to bring this photo back. And then the show continues on like a brisk pace from there, with like the episode focusing on giving us information about what each of the characters is planning to do after high school.
She's riding her scooter through the rain. Do you know how much that freaking hurts?
No. Well, if you're going fast, I guess, yeah.
Once you break 20 miles per hour, which I'm sure that little scooter can, it really starts to hurt. And like, I'm sure most people have stuck their hand out of like a window, when it's raining in a car. Okay. You probably have exposed arms and it's hitting you in the face.
That would hurt.
It's the face that really gets you. Just from being on a motorcycle. It's usually you just come to a stop unless you're fully geared, and then it's not a problem. But
yeah, you would have to have like a full face mask and stuff and a jacket and everything. Yeah. It'd be kind of cool to man, I kind of want to drive a motorcycle through the rain though. That feels like it would be really cool.
It's kind of cool, but you get soaked instantaneously, and it's pretty dangerous to ride it in the rain. Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, the tires are slicks for the most part, so they don't do very well. Personal experience. All right, let's talk about the show.
So, like as was my experience in high school, like most of these people, even though they're already a senior, like still only really have a vague idea of what they want to do. Like some of them want to go to college, but aren't really sure what for. And then like some plan to work for their family business eventually, like I think that was Mio or Hazuki, I forget. And Haruto says, I'll do something cool, like build an artificial satellite. And then like Eita's like, oh, that sounds really good. And Haruto's like, yeah, but I don't know how to build one yet. So they're all just like still figuring things out. The other subplot of this episode is Haruto is still trying to get closer to Hazuki. And there's a lot of low-key, hilarious visual humor in this episode. Like Haruto is like riding his bike across this hilly town to try and meet up with her. So they keep intercutting like scenes of him just like dying as he's going up hills and stuff. And like going by various other people in the cast. And then his fear of dogs also comes into play. There are a lot of gags with that. And like, yeah, it's just constant humor from Haruto's side. Also, Eita is constantly being stalked by Aina, who is determined to get his permission to use that picture that she took of him and Haruto playing baseball. And she's going to use it and enter it in this photo competition. But in the end, she promises to help him out with some of the relationship stuff he and Haruto are trying to go through, as long as like he'll give the permission to use the photo. And so he gives Aina his line ID after a lot of begging. And I love that scene in particular because at first you just see Eita walking up the sidewalk and he's on the phone. And then there's this just random person walking their dog, but this dog is like the cutest dog. And like it starts walking after him and has this like, it's like a little like Shiba Inu or something. I don't know what it's actually called. And then like it's marching with these little high paws. It's just really funny if you go look at it. And then you cut back to Eita looking at him from the front. And he turns to his right to reveal that Aina is like standing right behind him. It was like a scene out of a horror movie because she's been stalking him the whole episode. Yeah. And that's where he finally gives up. Just good direction there. And yeah, in the end, we basically got like a few different romantic plot lines going on here with Haruto wanting to be with Hazuki, but her not really wanting to be with anyone for some reason. And then Eita reconciling his feelings for Mio, who he used to have a huge crush on. And then with Aina kind of going after him hard in a non-romantic way, at least so far. And then Yoriko, Hazuki's friend, likes someone but isn't letting on who that is. So yeah, this has gamers potential in terms of relationships. But no miscommunications going on yet that we know about.
Oh yeah, you're right. There isn't.
Yeah.
There was one scene in particular. It was first two episodes. I didn't really find it entertaining. There was finally the one scene in this episode that I started laughing my ass off when Camera Girl went back to the club room, and the two guys they ended up getting caught in a conversation where they were comparing photos they had taken, and they got on the subject of Camera Girl. So they kept bringing up this picture and this picture, and they're like, oh, well, look at this one, and look at this one, and look at this one. Well, she walks into the club room, and they immediately panic and like hunch over the keyboards and turn them sideways and hide it, and they're like trying to close out all the windows they have open with pictures of her. Cracking me up. I was like, that's so cool. It's such a legit thing, too.
Yeah, I think they both clearly kind of like worship her a little bit as like their club leader too. So yeah, that was a really good scene. I liked that.
That was hilarious. But then there was I also messaged you this because I'd finished the third episode, and I messaged you and I said, I just don't get the appeal of the show.
Yeah.
To me, these kids live the most boring lives ever. How are people finding this entertaining? I'm asking this honestly because I'm just like, I definitely would never made it to episode 2 after watching episode 1.
Yeah, I think like sometimes I just like to watch shows that are about like mundane everyday life where I can like identify with the people in the show, like not just like in the Tsukigakure way where like, oh, I remember doing that, but like just like these are conversations that I would have had with my friends, or like I remember friends acting stupidly like this photography girl, or like stalking guys to like get them to do something, or like I remember all this stuff. So it's kind of just like cute and comfortable and relaxing to me, kind of in the way that maybe Girls Last Tour is like cute and comfortable and relaxing for you. But that one has a little bit more mystery to it. The mystery in this show is kind of figuring out like how are these romantic relationships going to play out, and like, and what is like, for what reason is Hazuki acting the way that she is, like kind of distant from everybody else. And that comes into play in the next episode. I can get into that. Episode 4 is called Full Swing. And so Haruto's bad luck with dogs continues immediately this episode as Mio's dog just chases him around a park until he just like gives up and face plants on the ground. But he bounces back pretty fast and decides he's going to go ask Hazuki out at the shrine visit coming up for New Year's. And by the way, there's a hilarious reaction shot of this dog's face when he says that. The dog's like, I don't know, man. It's just really funny.
There's also the camera girl brought her cat. And like, this is the most chill cat I've ever seen in a cat carrier in my life.
Yeah, this cat is very used to be carrying around in that cat carrier, I think.
Both my cats lose their fucking minds if you try to put them inside a cat carrier.
Well, yeah, it's like you're putting them in a little box, like, of course.
You would think I was torturing them if you were like, if there was like a wall between us. It's terrible.
Yeah, some cats can handle it, some cats can't, you know. So yeah, if Japanese romance anime have told me anything lately, it's that when you were in middle school,
I'm faulting the show for this.
You better lend your eraser to a girl, because that is planting a seed, and you don't even have to do anything for the rest of your life. You are in. You will be married in like 5 years. You just got to give your eraser to a middle school girl, and then they will love you forever. That's what Japanese anime told me.
He picked up her eraser. He picked up her eraser and she fell for him, and I was just like, come on, this is super tropey.
I was thinking about this, and I remembered back to one time in high school. I think it was like in 10th grade, and I was taking a test, and a girl next to me didn't have a pencil, and I gave her my pencil, and like this girl had never been nice to me before, and then was super nice to me for like the next like few weeks. So I can say with like some certainty that this is a real thing that does work. So I don't know. Yeah, advice for my children one day.
Because it's written into all these shows is because like the writers had actually experienced this at some point when they were in middle school.
Yeah, something like it anyway.
Yeah.
So that was a flashback where who was it? That was Mio. Hold on,
it's the girl.
Yeah, it was Hazuki, right? Thinking about Haruto. Mm-hmm. No, it was Mio thinking about... God, I'm so confused between the different girls because they kind of look similar. It was whoever thinking about Haruto that has a crush on them now in the future still. So I think it was Mio who was thinking about that. Because there's this painful moment for Mio in this episode where she openly talks with Haruto about how he's going to confess to Hazuki. And she reluctantly encourages him, which I think was nicely represented by both her not being able to hold her fake smile, and then also the dog just like knowing that she's upset and is putting on a fake smile, which is kind of cute. Mm-hmm. I've been really growing to enjoy the dynamic between Aina and Eita, which has moved on from being stalker and prey to like they're just basically perfect for each other, in my opinion, because Aina pulls him out of his shell. And he like refuses to admit it, especially because he has his heart set on Mio for the moment. But I really liked her line of like, don't come crying to me if you lose before ever taking the mound, which is what she's saying to him about going after Mio. Like she's just saying like, hey, you need to go give this a shot or else you're just going to regret it. And don't come crying to me if you don't even try. So yeah, Haruto and Hazuki, they go to the New Year's Eve shrine and everybody else intentionally ditches them to give them some time alone. And meanwhile, Eita and Mio meet up, and we meet Mio's older sister, Mina, who is like the perfect wingman older sister. Like she just comes in and she's like, oh yeah, you've gotten, I'm like, you told me like you're, wait, no, what did she say? Like, she's like, hi, Eita, I haven't seen you for a long time. And Eita's like, oh yeah, hi, Mina. And she's like, you're not going to say anything? Don't I look different? And he's like, yeah, I guess you do. And she's like, no, tell me I look cute. And he's like, yeah, I guess you're cuter now. And he's like, then she's like, oh, but doesn't my sister Mio look really cute? And then he just like blushes like crazy. So like perfect older sister screwing with you style flirting. Anyway, she walks off. And Haruto is working up the courage to tell Hazuki how he feels and drags her off to a secluded area. And I like the line, like one of Mio's friends passes by and says like, I hate that quiet girl, talking about Hazuki, when she sees like Haruto getting pulled off or pulling her off. And it gives us this sense that like, which I think we already kind of knew, that Hazuki is a flawed character in some way. And I think we're going to find out more about that going forward. And then, yeah, there's the end of this episode nicely cuts between two simultaneous scenes. One is with Eita asking Mio if she's really okay with Haruto going out with someone else and telling her to stop lying to herself and just do something about it. And Haruto is finally confessing to Hazuki. And the whole scene, both of them have like a very somber tone. So you know that it might not work out. And in the end, Eita tells Mio that she needs to stop lying to herself. And she's like, stay out of it. And he's like, no, you need to stop using your entrance exams as an excuse. And like, so, but he tells her he's cared about her since middle school, and it is his business. He's kind of involved, and she kind of like is taken aback by that and doesn't know what to think. And then meanwhile, Hazuki tells Haruto that she can't go out with him, specifically using the word can't. And the two guys after this head home very defeated. And that's where that episode ends. Kind of a sad ending. But I'm sure we'll find out more about the reasoning as we go forward.
Yeah, I have a note here. I don't remember what happened. I'm like 5 episodes ahead already. But I said Morikawa was basically leading Soma on in that last scene. So
yeah. Probably.
And also, this episode was slightly better. I thought the show was a little bit better. All of the confusing of who likes who and being timid and confessing makes it seem more real with me, which was my biggest problem with Tsukigakure. I just thought the relationships were just completely unbelievable and not real at all. So,
yeah, I got the sense that Hazuki definitely was kind of leading Haruto on a bit, but I also got the sense that she was like hoping that he would not confess to her at the same time, because I think she knew she was going to say no. And so she was kind of like stringing things out, trying to talk about other things, like hoping that he would not have the courage to ask, I guess. I don't know. It was a weird dynamic, and that's why I'm curious to find out what her deal is as we go forward. So, yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, how about another romantic comedy?
Inuyashiki, the last hero, the least romantic comedy. Anime. Blah. Episode 3, Now Yuki Ando. We get a nice opening of a reminder of all the people Hiro killed last episode, and then Hiro is pretty shaken up when Ichiro stands up for being shot, and then he flies off. Hiro goes back to his friend Ando's place the next day and reads some manga with him. Ando gets a paper cut, and Hiro heals it, which is crazy. Also saying he could probably heal even more dangerous diseases like cancer if he wanted to in the process. Ichiro is on his way home from work when a group of thugs cuts in line for a taxi. A business worker says something to them, and they end up dragging him off to a back alley. Ichiro shows up pretty coolly, telling the guy to run the safety and he will handle the thugs from here. The thugs, in typical attack one at a time fashion, go after Ichiro, which I've never understood.
Yeah.
He still fights like he's some old man, just basically flinging his arms around, but every time he connects, of course, with a thug, it just like butchers him. He one punches him, basically.
I liked that he sucked at fighting, because that makes sense. He's never really been a fighter in his life.
Yeah, but then being a robot, even if he makes a graze, it just like, wrecks the other guys. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
So he saves the guy and whatnot, and Ichiro is still on his way home. Hears a family freaking out about their house on fire and grandma still being trapped inside. The problem is that the house is far away and he won't be able to reach it in time. He figures if Hiro can fly, so can he. He eventually figures it out by singing the Astro Boy song.
That was so weird and funny.
And just like fighting, of course, he is absolute shit at flying at first. Like, the first thing he does is take off and then just crash straight back down. But he does eventually get to the burning house. And dude, did you notice the scene? Like when he lands, I laugh my ass off because he just crashes. It's like almost at the side of the screen, dude. That had to be for comic relief. Please.
Oh, definitely.
It's just so hilarious how they do it. It's just, you're just watching the burning house and then just his body just goes and crashes
like right on the street. Yeah.
Anyways, he just walks past the crying kids into the burning house and pulls out the dad first. He then goes back in and gets the grandma. And he's like, asks them, hey, please don't tell the police or anybody that I was here. And he goes on his way.
Not like there's so many bystanders who saw him. Like, of course they're going to tell him.
So, back to Hiro, who goes to Ando's first thing in the morning and pesters him until he finally gets up and goes to school. He does convince him by finally saying he will protect him, if he goes back to school. As soon as the word is out that Ando's at school, a group of guys immediately start picking on him. Hiro steps in and tells them to go play with themselves. The ringleader tries to bring Hiro with them, but Hiro grabs his wrist and squeezes him into submission. He starts crying by the end. It's pretty awesome. The ringleader goes to his knees and Hiro makes him apologize and say other things like they're ass maggots and stuff like that. Also, the rest of the class has been watching this entire scene. So that's kind of neat. And the ringleader says all these things while crying and sobbing. And when it's done over, he walks out of the classroom holding his wrist. He's like, I think it's broken. But And one of the other guys in the gang's like, you better meet us on the rooftop after school. So after the school, the two decide to go up to the rooftop and see if the bullies are there. They're not, and on the camp, but they're instead on the campus talking to some girls. Hiro gives Ando some binoculars and then just flat out shoots all the bullies with his finger gun. Hiro gives us a quick info dump here. He can see up to 1 kilometer away. His finger gun can hit up to 10 kilometers away. He can also tap into all internet messaging, police radios, and security cameras around the world. He can also send a nuclear missile from America to China without breaking a sweat. He can also give himself unlimited money by manipulating an ATM. So yeah,
I want that ability.
Him and the other guy, Ichiro, are pretty much all powerful.
Yeah.
But Ando is deeply disturbed by all this and tells Hiro he can't be friends with someone who can kill people so easily. Hiro just finally says, all right, and leaves him alone.
But he also tells him, like, just keep going to school. Like, he's so concerned about Choka going to school. It's just very interesting to me.
Well, he's only concerned about his close family and friends. Everybody else can just go die, basically. Yeah. So Ichiro is walking home when he passes a mother cat and her kitten. Behind him, the mother cat gets hit by a car, and Ichiro rushes over. Then his vision goes all x-ray, and he finds out he can heal things. And he heals the cat, and they get up and walk away. He then goes to the hospital to try out his new powers. The final scene is Hiro walking into another random house and killing everybody in it. They didn't animate this one, so I hope you're okay with it, Bcom.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, especially once you've seen like what they did in that previous scene, this is like nothing compared to it. But yeah, it just shows like this continued pattern of like nihilistic just murder that he does.
The best thing they did by not showing it leaves it up to our imaginations, and we know the worst he can do. So our imaginations just immediately make it absolutely horrible, whatever he did in there. Yeah,
because it's all audio. Like you hear the people yelling and screaming, and then one by one, their voices are like snuffed out. And in the end, you hear like the child like crying, and then that goes away too. So like, yeah, you know what he did. That's a pretty effective way to show that scene for sure. But I can't wait, Leo. I need to talk about this next episode.
Okay, because I absolutely love this next episode.
Well, okay, so episode 4.
The thing is, what you fault it for, I want to praise it for.
Oh, no, that's fine. I want to start off with like a little anecdote. So like episode 4 is called Samejima, and Brains from the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast actually contacted me because he knew I had like talked shit about this show in like the first 2 episodes, right? And he was like, you know what, Bcom, you should really watch the first minute and 30 seconds of episode 4. And at that point, I hadn't even watched episode 3 yet, so I was like, oh wait, are there spoilers
minute
or something?
30. Look at my note. My note is literally minute 30 in, and I love how fucked up this show is.
All right, let's break down this first minute and 30 seconds. So the scene opens up on a naked woman who is like basically passed out on a bed. She's overdosed on drugs, and there's like some yakuza asshole, like this huge guy in the apartment, who's basically the main character for this episode, and like. He has some of his guys come and like take the girl away because she overdosed. And then he's like, well, I can't like satisfy myself with her. So he goes to a sauna, and he walks into a sauna, and there's like one Yakuza guy in there and like 2 random guys. He tells the random guys, just get out of here. And he walks like straight up to the Yakuza guy, and then he's just like, get on your knees. And then you just see him like forcing this guy to give him a blowjob, and then telling him, keep sucking until I come. And that's where the credits start. And I was like, holy shit. What the fuck is this show? Oh my God. That was ridiculously shocking to me to see in anime. Like, you don't see that shit.
So like, the thing is, where you put something, you don't feel like the show gives depth to its characters, but I think this show does an amazing job of immediately letting you understand who these people are. Yeah, and I praised it from episode 1 and episode 2, and then especially this one, like minute 30 in, you're like, don't fuck with this guy. He is insane. Like, they just sell it so well.
Yeah, it's true. And so it's interesting. The after the credits, like the show takes a huge twist of tone, like turn, and we're introduced to this very sweet couple. One is a girl named Fumino Inoue. who's probably like in her 20s or something, and she works at a bento shop, and she's fallen in love with this office worker named Satoru, who asks her to marry him after dating for like a year, and it's very romantic and all of this, and you feel really good about it.
Well,
and
also, like I said, how they sell your character so quick. Like this girl is actually a little bit prettier than normal.
Yeah,
and her husband is just like the most norm guy ever.
Plain guy, yeah.
And it sells it on you in just that one scene.
Yeah, because like she's talking to her bento shop fellow worker, and she's like, "Does this guy make a lot of money or something?" Like she's like, "No,
like
he's a normal salary man."
She's like, "You could do so much better," basically.
Yeah. He shows up, and her face is just like priceless. She's just like, "Huh?" Yeah. The next day, though, this yakuza guy shows up at Inoue's shop. And his men on her way home, like just drive a van up next to her and like take her silently and take her back to the boss's place so they can sedate her and then he can rape her. Jesus Christ. She wakes up from her like stupor, and like before like she gets raped, she's able to kick him and run away. And she finds his like katana, which is just sitting around in the room, and she's like flailing it around, and she's lucky enough to slash like one of his wrists, opening up an artery, and she uses that opportunity to escape. And takes a taxi back home.
Screwing around with her too.
Yeah, he's just like, "Oh, you have a lot of spunk or something." Like he's just like very excited that she's fighting back because he's like
he's completely fearless.
Yeah. So she makes it back home to her fiance Satoru, and like it tells him like, "God, like this man took me. They didn't hurt me, but they were really close to doing it, and then unfortunately they followed her."
Drugs.
Yeah, they followed her home, and like the Yakuza finds her, and Satoru says like, "I'll pay you whatever you want," but they're not even interested in money. They have all the money they need, and he's only interested in raping Inoue over and over until he shows her heaven, is basically what he says. Jesus Christ. So this Yakuza guy, who by the way, he feels like he's like 8 feet tall at some points in this episode.
Basically
he picks up Satoru, right, and starts choking the life out of him with his like hands. And Ichiro arrives just in time when this is happening to save Satoru's life. He attacks Samejima and his men, but Samejima like grabs Ichiro and fires like 8 shots from his gun, like point blank into Ichiro's head, and like none of the shots penetrate, but even so, like that like knocks him out for a while. And he basically faints. And when he comes to, Satoru, it looks like is dead, but he tries to revive him, but his powers are only limited to healing living people. But he still doesn't want to give up, so he starts just giving him like CPR, chest compressions as the last resort, and he actually does revive Satoru, who comes back.
I'm actually really glad, because I would have felt super bad for Samejima. I mean, she's madly in love with this dude.
Oh, you mean, Inoue or whatever, Fumino. Samijima's the evil Yakuza guy. I was like, why would you feel bad for him?
Are you sure?
Yeah. Her name's Fumino Inoue.
Oh, okay. Oops.
Samijima's the evil Yakuza guy. Yeah, I would have felt really bad for her as well. So then Ichiro goes to find Samejima at a Yakuza meeting. And after a brief encounter, Samejima pushes him to his limit by like firing at him again. And he's okay, but then he has like 8 of his guys just empty Uzis, like clips of Uzis into Ichiro. And this takes like everything he has to like resist, and he actually automatically activates some sort of like self-preservation routine, because like his insides open up and then he floats into the air, and he has his like eyes closed, and his back opens up and like unleashes these blue laser beams that like shoot in these arcs, and they just shoot through the eye sockets of all of these high-ranking Yakuza members and blinding all of them,
paralyzing them.
Yeah. So it doesn't kill any of them. And he like, once it's done, he tells them all like, I want you to reflect on what you've done for the rest of your lives and think about all the people you've hurt. And like, hopefully by the time you die, you'll have come to peace with yourselves and what you've done. So that's kind of interesting. And then Ichiro finds Inoue after all this, and she's like grieving because she thinks Satoru is dead. But tells her, no, I saved him, it's okay, and he tells her like, hey, jump on. Like he flies her back to him, which she's surprisingly okay with. And yeah, they meet up and they live happily ever after. So yeah, like besides this was like, you have to admit, it's a very edgy episode, like very dark episode. But besides all that, like, I think my main problem with the show right now is that like Ichiro is the good guy, Hiro is the bad guy, but there's not like a very deep philosophy to their actions right now. It's Ichiro is basically like, I want to help as many people as I can, and that's like all he does. And Hiro is just like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, even if I want to just kill people. And like everything they've come up against so far has been like an absolute evil. Like Hiro himself is pretty evil. The yakuza rapist guy is like absolute evil incarnate. Yep. I just want to see Ichiro presented with like kind of a moral conundrum, like where he has to truly think about the limits of his powers and how he should use them. I'd like to see something like that in the future, rather than just like fighting absolute evil over and over again and just winning or not winning. I want to see something like that in the next couple episodes to be more interesting to me.
Maybe might happen.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. Yeah, we can move on. All right.
Humming that to myself
a good OP
all week long. Such a good OP. And I don't know who sings it, but I really like her voice.
I'll have to look that up.
And like the tone she sings it in. It's like a really laid back tone. She's like, I'm not doing any justice.
No, I can picture it in my mind though. I know what it sounds, I really like this OP a lot. It just sets the tone for the show every week too, with all the MMO stuff. Mm-hmm. So episode 3, You and I, the Cowards of this is a recovery of an MMO Junkie, if you hadn't guessed already. As you could have seen by the freeze framing at the end of episode 2, it turns out that Moriko turned down Yuta's invitation to go out with him. Like, he was trying to apologize to her for elbowing her in the face and putting her in the hospital, but she didn't want to cause him any extra trouble, and she's just super shy, so she turned him down. And so Yuta finds out from his friend, whose name is Homare Koiwai. He always calls him Koiwai-san in the show. That he used to work at the same company as Moriko, and Koiwai like would call her office sometimes to like talk to her boss, but he wouldn't be there, so he'd have conversations with her, and he ended up giving her the nickname Mori Mori-chan based on her very similar first and last name, Moriko Morioka. And so like Yuta's jealous that Homare is on like such friendly terms with her, but in the end, Moriko is really relieved to like have handled the situation in a way that like she doesn't have to like deal with it anymore, like with Yuta, and like have to like go out of her way to be like really shy and stuff. And she goes to the convenience store. She's all happy and she wants to buy more in-game currency. And the clerk notices her again. And it was clear to me at this point that this clerk was going to play a role in the show and probably in the game. And he definitely notices here like what MMO she plays when she pays for currency, but doesn't say much else. Back in the game, Moriko meets up with the character who calls themselves Pokotaro, and she receives a gift from Lily, or Yuta. And Poko tells her, it's probably just Lily trying to cheer you on as a friend, but keep in mind that she might have some ulterior motives. So then Moriko like approaches Lily in the game, and she thinks to herself like at her desk, like, how should I broach this subject? And then she just asks like, do you have any ulterior motives in giving this gift to me? And Lily's like, what? Ulterior motives? And then Moriko is like a little bit disappointed when Lily doesn't like instantly say that like she had an ulterior motive. I can't say that word. And so she's like, well, I can't say I didn't have none at all, blah, blah, blah. And so we learn a little about Lily's history in this game, which has been really shitty because as a cute girl in an MMO, as soon as she joined up, she was just like accosted by different players who wanted to like group with her all the time because she looks like a cute girl, and so like maybe she's a cute girl in real life. This happens in real MMOs. And then it caused tensions because like when she joined a guild, one of the other women in the guild got really jealous of Lily, like who was grouping up with like the guild leader, and told her to stay away from him, not knowing that in real life it's a guy, you know. So Lily decided to keep playing though because she met someone really precious to her in the game that she used to play with all the time, and even though she doesn't get to see them anymore, is hoping that she'll meet someone like that again, and kind of has in Hayashi or Moriko. And Moriko feels the same. Used to play with somebody that gave them a lot of courage, but in the end Lily solved her problem in the game by just like Kanbei told her like, hey, if you would just be my partner in game, I don't think people would bother you as much, and I don't mind being your partner. So Lily took him up on that. So Lily was fine with that for a while, but now that she's spent a lot of time with Hayashi, she wants to know if I'm like saying this in quotes because like, you know, he's a she and she's a he. It's confusing, but like he'll be her partner. And Moriko jumps out of her computer chair and onto her bed to like hug her big cat Dakimakura because she can't contain her happiness at Lily like wanting her to be her partner and like saying that like I feel most at peace when I'm playing with you and stuff.
It is super cute.
And then the last thing is just like Moriko tells herself to calm down because like, hey, you're in your 30s and this is someone you only know online, and it's also a girl and you're a girl. But she's like, but I'm still really happy. Like that's basically how the episode ends.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this episode.
It's just a pretty straightforward, cute episode.
Yep. Okay, episode 4, Like a Maiden in Love. I'm still jamming to the intro. Turns out, convenience store guy plays the same game.
Yeah, of course. I figured he would, and I hadn't seen that episode like when I was writing that review for the other one. I was like, yeah, no, that guy's going to be part of the game.
And it's always nice to connect, with somebody through a game. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Man, my synopsis is super short this episode.
Yeah, it covers everything, I think.
Yeah. So it seems there are some new loot boxes in the game, and everybody's excited for them.
How topical. I watched this episode and I was like, did they write this? Like, when did they write this episode? I mean, it's based on a web manga, so probably not like very recently, but it's funny that it came out amongst all of the loot box controversy this year. So.
Yeah, with EA and stuff specifically.
Yeah.
Turns out Lilac has also apparently dropped a lot of money trying to get some of the items she is currently sporting in the game. So as a group, they all go together to buy some more loot boxes, and Lilac is also kind of jealous that Hayashi and Lily are partners, and she wants a partner also. We also get to see Lilac's like real life person.
Very cute.
And she seems to have a thing for their group leader.
Kanbei, yeah.
Yeah.
Though she seemed to almost have a thing for Hayashi at one point too, because she's like, oh, I can see why Lily wanted to partner up with Hayashi. He seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, a little bit.
But definitely Kanbei for sure.
In typical loot crate fashion, poor Moriko gets healing potions the entire time.
I wrote this like I would flip out if I bought a loot crate and got healing potions from it. Like I would go ape shit. I would like sue the company.
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
But Lily got like everything though.
Yeah, that's true. She just kept buying everything.
Her RNG box is just like legit.
She is like what EA dreams of in a customer.
Yeah. Yuta is also trying to find out another way to meet Moriko again. So Homura goes to the convenience store and actually runs into Moriko. He doesn't recognize her at first, but then he does. He ends up getting her contact info and a promise to go out for drinks later that week. Yeah. And then he like holds it. I think this is the same episode where he holds it over Yuta's head. Right?
Yes, definitely. Like at the end, he's like, oh, look at what I have on my phone. And it's like, it's Moriko's contact information.
Yeah. So in the last scene, Yuta starts to realize who the person he is talking to into the game is, because Moriko starts talking about her problems to him, about what happened to her.
Yeah.
And he just got done talking to his buddy, Homura. And so he's just like, oh my God.
He's like, if I switch the genders around and I think about it this way, wait a minute.
It's exactly the same. So he's basically figured it out, and he just kind of confirms it next episode for the most part. But
I also there's one scene in the episode where Moriko's at the convenience store and she's at the counter, and like the counter guy tells her like, hey, the like electronic money machine is under maintenance for like the next 5 minutes, so you can't buy your like microtransaction like money yet. And she's like, well, do you mind if I wait? And he's like, oh no, be my guest. And then she just stands in front of the counter with a blank face, not saying anything for like 5 minutes. She she's just like a zombie. And I was like, yeah, this is about how I imagine people who buy like in-game currency all the time. This is what they would look like if they had to wait 5 minutes. So yeah, I was just laughing at that. She's such a funny character. I love her.
Oh yeah, she's probably one of my favorite characters of this season.
Yeah, she's so good. She's so good. I love just like her in the game versus her like outside of the game, like at her desk as a gamer, and then like her out in the world as like the shy person. They're all great.
Okay, let's do Kino's Journey to Beautiful World animated series. Very short synopsis. Episode 3, Bothersome Country. Kino finds... This is so weird. Kino...
You can say himself. It's fine. It's fine.
I think it's a she, actually.
It is a she. Like,
yeah, I saw
like
something similar.
Canonically, it's a she. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about this show is, like, episode 3, I legit wrote 2 small paragraphs. But then for, like, episode 5, I wrote, like, over half a page.
Like some of the episodes are definitely more interesting than others.
Yeah, there's like so much more going on, and then this one I really felt like nothing was going on.
Yeah.
But Kino finds herself in a country that's basically a giant tank, and it's like crazy advanced. The walls are impenetrable, and it has a laser beam that can melt anything. The country is also constantly moving because the people within it want to see when they want to tour the world. But there is a couple drawbacks. They can't stop for too long because their power supply will overheat, and they also leave a path of destruction behind them as they roll over or through anything in their train. And then they just come across another militaristic country that has built a wall and completely sealing off the valley. This doesn't stop the tank country at all, as they just roll right through it. No matter how many missiles the country shoots at them, it doesn't hurt them. The point of the episode basically is which country is most at fault, the one who doesn't care if they harm another country, or the other one that built a wall completely sealing off the valley and charging, large prices for people to pass through with their wares and whatnot.
And I think I kind of, in the end, agreed with Kino, who he didn't say it really like this, but like both sides were just assholes. like both countries were assholes. Like there's no good country for this one.
No, they're both assholes.
But yeah, there really wasn't much that episode, was there? Like it was just like, yeah.
That was the gist of it. I could talk about the classroom and the mural on the side, but why?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that Kino's probably going to get a mural of her sniping people, but like that, I don't know. That's basically all it was.
I will say, I think episode 4 got a little bit better. I loved episode 5.
Well, I can't wait to watch that.
Oh my god, that was so good. Even though I kind of saw what was happening, but I still thought it was really cool.
Ooh, I'm excited. I haven't watched that yet. I've been watching them as we review. And so episode 4 was pretty interesting. It's called Ship Country, and it's because the country is literally a ship. But it's weird because this one starts off from the point of view of Shizu and his dog Rico, who were in there from the Colosseum arc. So not from Kino's point of view, which is interesting. They come across this ship country and they're going to take it to sail across to another place. And like they meet up with like the rulers of the country, who are these like people who dress in black wizard robes, and they offer Shizu the choice of staying in their tower and overseeing this like unruly populace for the 15-day trip, or if he wants, he can live amongst the common people, but he'll have to perform manual labor. And so he says to like, and he like surprises them, I want to be with the common people because I'm a humble man. So he goes down to them. And like their like little leader tells them like, hey, this little girl named Tifana, or T, is going to be your guide while you're here. And so she's like this really young girl, and she never talks. But she shows him around and shows him like what's going on. And he keeps asking like, is there any work I can do? Like, is there anything I can help with? And she just keeps shaking her head. There's nothing for him to do, apparently. But that's all strange because Shizu, like, he hears that the ship keeps like rumbling and like making bad noises that don't sound good. And he finds that there's some compartments in the ship that are completely flooded, and there's some that are just filled with wreckage. And he asks T if she can like draw on this map he finds of the whole ship, like the schematic, like draw all the sections that are like flooded are like wrecked. And she draws like 134 or something different sections that are all just completely unusable. And so he says, this can't like continue. Like the ship is going to sink if it stays unrepaired like this. And at this point in the episode, I thought that Shizu was going to go to the rulers and be like, hey, why aren't you having the common people like actually repair this ship? Like, I thought that was going to be what happened, but it kind of went completely different direction. Like, so he goes to the tower and he brings a rifle with him because he brings a sword with him because he's worried that this might actually get dangerous. And he comes up against one of these like black hooded leaders who is very surprisingly very good with a gun when he tries to like challenge them. And it turns out it's Kino. And this is because like they had said like a traveler joined like 5 days ago or something. And it turns out it was Kino. And Kino had chosen to stay with the leaders of the country. But Shizu brings her up to speed on like what's going on. And they both decide like, oh, we need to do something about this. And the tower people like are like, well, we're gonna like change course and go further out to sea now, and you can both just die with these common people. It'll be a long time before we reach land. So they decide like, okay, enough of this crap, and they just start cutting through those guys. But like Kino's using rubber bullets so as not to kill them. But they get to the leader, they get to the bridge, and like they ask like, what are you gonna do with this country? Like, are you gonna become its king if need, like once we're gone? And Shizu's response is like, if I need to become the king, I will. And the leader just says, very well, you'll be next. And then the black like form of this thing like crumples onto the ground like it's like a wooden doll or something. And they're like, what the hell happened there? And so they all pull ashore. And Shizu tells like the common people, like, we fought these tower people, we couldn't take their tyranny anymore, and now you can all live freely on the land. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. Like, we want to live on our ship. It's the only country we've ever known. We love our country, and we don't believe just because you say it that it's going to sink at any day soon. So we're just going to go back. And Shizu realizes he's failed, and Tifana or T comes up to him, and he's like, well, I guess you should just go back to your country too. And then she like goes up to him slowly, and she pulls out this small knife. We had seen her looking at it when they were attacking the tower earlier, and she stabs it into his stomach. All of a
info
sudden.
dump.
Yeah, and then the info dump. Yeah, like what's his name? Riku the dog and Kino are about to help him, and he says, "Stop, stop!" And then she tells him like, "I have no home to go back to." And that's all she says. And then we hear Hermes, who had talked to one of the black hooded people, the Tower Clan, like info dump everything. Like basically what happens is 600 years ago, there was a ship that was named Tifana, which is the name of the girl. And this ship drifted into the abandoned ship country. And when the ship found that country, the only children who were only children were left alive because all of the adults had died to some plague that only kills adults or whatever. And the AI, the artificial intelligence from the Tifana ship, transferred themselves over to the ship country because they realized somebody needs to take care of these children and like rule over them. And so the artificial intelligences became the black hooded rulers, and like made the ship survive. And they thought about dropping them off somewhere, but like the kids had no idea. Like even once they grew up to be adults, they knew nothing other than like living on this ship. So they always thought it was a bad idea. And they also knew that they couldn't protect them from other countries. So like the best way to keep them alive was just to keep them on this ship forever. And so Tifana was not among those people who were originally the children on the ship. She was born on the ship to like a group, like two passing travelers, and she's always been an outcast, and those parents just abandoned her on the ship to get away. So like once Shizu hears all this, oh, what'd you say?
So what a dick move.
Yeah, that's a really shitty thing to do. And maybe, I don't know, it doesn't really go further into it, but maybe they had like wanted to escape with their lives or something. I don't know. But either way, it's shitty to abandon your child somewhere. Yep. So obviously Tifana has abandonment issues, and she sees Shizu leaving again, and she's kind of formed like a little daughter like father bond with him in the brief time that she's been with him, and she sees him like just abandoning her, just like her parents abandoned her, and that's why she stabbed him. But once he realizes this, he asks her like to come close, and then like hugs her and says like, you should come with me, and like we can both support each other from now on. And she agrees, and she hugs him. However, he's losing a lot of blood from the wound, and he like falls to the ground and almost faints. And she's like, no, I can't lose someone again. She takes out a grenade and pulls the pin and Hermes is like, she's going to kill herself with him. And Kino takes her gun and shoots the grenade out of her hand before it can explode. And so that's basically how it ends. But then there's a brief coda after end credits, and it just shows that Shizu's patched up, he lives, and everything's okay, and he's gonna have Tifana with him from now on, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, still like, even though this episode was definitely more involved than episode 3, it's like still like not a amazing episode. like you said, I think a lot of it is just an info dump all at the end. Mm-hmm. It wasn't spread out quite as well as it could have been, I would think. And also, they never really wrapped up like why all these people apparently have no work to do when the ship could be repaired at any point. I guess maybe we're supposed to infer that they just don't have the skills to repair the ship because they were all born on a ship and don't know how to repair things.
You would think the AI would be able to direct them.
Yeah, because the AI ran a ship. So like...
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me anyway. Yeah, like there seems to be like a little disconnect there.
If it was smart enough to make the decisions it made, I don't see why it wouldn't know how to repair the ship.
I agree.
Yeah, and just like with that info dump, I think it would have been better if they could have written it into the story, even if they needed to make it a 2 episode.
Yeah.
But that's it for that one.
All right, let's move on to the next show.
It gets a lot better after this, I'll just let you know.
Oh, cool. Good. I'm glad.
I liked 5 and 6 both quite a bit. So let's move on to Girls Last Tour. Episode 3, Encounter/Journal/Streetlights. You and she are on their search again for food when they come across a lit cigarette and realize that somebody else is there. You loads her gun when suddenly there's an explosion and one of the skyscrapers comes down next to them. Through the dust comes a man named Kanazawa. He brought down the building to make a bridge across the expanse that they themselves have been trying to find a way across. You and she want to get to the tower on the other side and see if it can take them to a higher level. Kanazawa just wants a ride to the tower and will go on his way from there. So he joins up with them. On the way to the tower, they come across a refueling station and collect fuel for their tank bike thing. Then they have this funny little joke where, like, in an earlier episode, you was burning cheese books. And Kanazawa has been making these maps, and you wanted to see it, but she warns him about it. And it's just a really good joke how they play it out.
Yeah, and Yu's like, "Don't worry, I won't burn it this time." Something else. She makes the funniest face. It's really good.
Yeah. They make it to the tower, and they find no lift to take them to the top. Chi is super afraid of heights, and when they're partially up top, like the lift tilts part way and they stop, and Kanazawa's map he has been working on starts to like slowly slide off the edge. He goes for it, doesn't make it in time, and his map ends up getting spread everywhere, but it takes you and Chi both to grab him and save him from plunging to his death himself. They do end up making it to the top as the night starts to fall, and when it becomes dark enough, all the street lights start to turn on, and it just amazes them all. In the end, Kanazawa gives the girls his camera and goes his separate way. The girls set out for the brightest place out in the distance. It's this giant building. It's super bright. That's about the end of that episode. But man, this show, I love the OPs and the EDs. And also, I don't know what it is about this show, but I just find it relaxing and entertaining, even with its like slow pace. I feel like I should hate its slow pace, but I enjoy this show so much.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I definitely thought this was like, for me, the best episode so far, because we learned so much more about like the world, like, and how it has like these ancient cities that, like Kanazawa says, like they weren't even built by our ancestors. Like I think our ancestors just populated these cities that were built by an even older civilization or something. And then like it is really good at making you feel uneasy because like they don't know whether they can trust Kanazawa at first. And they get to this refueling station, and like over the course of a few scenes, like Yuri has gotten like more at ease with like just leaving her rifle between the two of them in the back of the truck. But they're refueling the barrel of like gas, and like they just leave the rifle in the truck next to Kanazawa, and I'm like, this is, if he's playing a long game, this is like a perfect opportunity for him to turn on them.
Yeah, but
and
also one of the selling points was you're like, I led you guys to this refueling station.
Exactly. Yeah.
I actually want to say I think he brings that up later. Like they question something, and he's like, "Well, you never would have found that refueling station without me and my maps." So
yeah, they're questioning whether the maps are legit, and because like they're trying to get to that huge tower, and he's like, "No, we have to take this really long roundabout route." So like, yeah, they do this really good thing of low key holding this tension throughout the episode, and that's why I think it doesn't get boring, because you're like, at any time this switch could flip. Yep. But it doesn't, and he ends up being a pretty good guy, even if he is very obsessed with his life's work, which is the maps, and almost kills himself over him,
and then loses them ultimately in the end. So, Okay, let's do episode 4, Photograph/Temple. The girls are still continuing towards the glowing building. Yu starts to play around with the camera they got last episode and takes a bunch of pictures of the stone statues all around the city. The city is just populated by these statues that look like tall versions of the Pac-Man bad guys. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what they look like. They're kind of ghosty and stuff, and they all look to their right.
Yeah, which
is interesting.
They're all like side-eyeing you. It's really good.
Yu keeps making Chi turn around while she's driving to take pictures of her. This eventually causes them to crash into one of the statues, and it's just super funny when it happens because like Chi just ends up berating Yu for that. She's like, "This is Zako, I told you not to do that."
It's also funny because like it's totally exaggerated because this huge pillar falls on both of their heads, but they're both wearing helmets, so they're okay. It's like a huge like marble pillar falls on their heads, and you're
like, "No, that just would have crushed your neck." But they end up finishing off that day with Chi figuring out how to use the delay on the camera so they can take a picture together. It's kind of cute and sweet.
Yeah.
They do end up getting to this bright building, and they go inside and they find it dark. And there's also a lot more of these statues here. It turns out they believe this building is a temple and the people worship the stone statues. There's a neat little scene where like the lantern goes out, and then Chi uses the opportunity to mess with you in the dark. Like she doesn't respond at first. So you had some thoughts on this?
She's such an asshole. Like if my friend did this to me, I would fucking kill. I would like wail on them when they like tried to surprise me.
You had it coming though. She did point her gun at her.
That's true. Yeah, maybe this is like a little bit of a revenge.
This is a little bit of a payback.
Yeah.
No, but it's really funny because she doesn't say anything and she's like wandering around in the dark. But suddenly when it becomes night out, all the lights came on again. And they kind of walk around, and what they do is they find themselves in a room, which is basically, it's just one large fake lily pond. Like even the water is just like a clear plastic. It's just a really strange temple. But that's about the end of the episode. You want to talk about how it has 52,000 photos?
Yeah, there was like a weird moment there where, so they have that digital camera from Kanazawa. Well, first of all, I was thinking like, I wonder if they're going to look back through the pictures that he took on the camera, or maybe he took like a memory card with him or something. But I was wondering if they would find out more about him by looking back through the old photos that he took before.
They could.
But yeah, apparently they figure out they have like, it says on the display of the camera, we have like 520,000, like 14 or something photos left. But in the dialogue, Chi says we have 52,000. And I couldn't tell, like, is this an intentional mistake? Like to tell us that like Chi doesn't even know numbers that go that high? Or is it like an actual mistake in the animation where they should have animated or drawn 52,000 and they drew 520,000? I don't know. It's kind of weird. But there's some good lines in this episode. Like one is when they get to the temple and Yuri is asking Chi like, what's a god? And she's like, well, it's kind of like a thing. And she's like, can you eat it? And she's like, I don't think so.
Yu's thing is being obsessed with food.
Yeah, that's definitely. Yu loves food. And like, I also liked in that scene at the end of the episode, they're sitting and eating at the lily pads, and Yu just says something like, it's kind of weird eating when you're looking at the afterlife. Or eating rations when you're looking at the afterlife. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Really, if anything,
the
show is more like a philosophical point of view and stuff like that. But
definitely. It's kind of abstract. But I like that it's slowly peeling back little layers of what's going on in this world, or what came before them, at least.
Saturdays?
So what we got? The Ancient Magus Bride. So episode 3. I talked about episode 3 a little bit already in our introduction to the season episode, our last podcast. So I won't recover it too much, but yeah, it's that episode where, Chise is captured by the dragons or whatever, and but she what's his name? Elias quickly follows after her and is like, oh no, this guy's my friend. Don't worry about it. He's just a mage. But so she spends most of the episode talking to these little young dragons. And then this elder dragon called an Uil, who is in the process of dying. And he basically shows Chise what it means to live, and tells her she must fly underneath the skies like he has, living her life to the fullest in order to have no regrets upon dying. But yeah, that the crux of the episode is that the elder dies and he turns into this beautiful tree, and he accepts his death fully, and he's imparting that philosophy onto Chise, who hasn't really cherished her life up to this point in the anime.
He explains dragons don't fear death like humans do.
Yeah. And it was just a really gorgeous, artistic episode, and the music was gorgeous. I think that episode 3 really showed me what this show could be when it's at its best. So that had me really hyped going forward. But I think you have episode 4.
Yep, I have episode 4. Everything must have a beginning. The episode begins with Chise having an ominous dream about a lady asking a cat for one of its 9 lives. She wakes up, and her and Elias go to the cat kingdom to meet with the king of the cats. The king needs help with a matter. Turns out a very long time ago, a man lived in the village who enjoyed killing the cats.
Bastard.
Yeah, eventually the cats banded together and killed this man.
Good.
But he left behind his malice. In every generation, the cats have to pay a couple of their lives to keep it at bay, because they all have 9 lives.
That's I just love that. That's such a Japanese idea. I just love spirits grow out of this evil event in the past, and they need to be held at bay. That's a Studio Ghibli. That's Princess Mononoke right there. It's just, I love that idea.
Oh, for sure. So this, I keep calling it Malice. Blob of Malice is on this island in a lake. They're out there looking at it when a woman suddenly grabs Chise and teleports above the lake and drops her in it. We then get a flashback of a man taking care of his very sick wife. Quickly back in the present, the ghost of the woman asks Chise, as she's sinking in the lake, to stop the malice that is her husband. Elias saves Chise from the lake and says he would like her to cleanse the malice, rather than whatever else they were going to do with it. So Chise gets all dressed up and walks across the water to the little island. And when she gets to the island, the woman shows up again and puts a knife to her throat. Also, another man shows up named Renfred. It seems that he has a use for this malice and doesn't want Chise to purify it. Renfred reveals to Chise that Elias hasn't told her everything, and that a death soon awaits a slay beggy, which is what Chise is. And that's the gist of that episode.
I'm not surprised that Elias has kept some information from Chise. Also, I'd just like to say, I was in the middle of this episode and I kind of squinted for a little bit, and I was like, am I watching Homeward Bound? Because I was just watching all these cats talk to each other. And I was transported back to my childhood of watching Milo and Otis and Homeward Bound. And it was just really funny. I couldn't get over the king cat. Then her 2 different colored eyes and stuff.
And famously, Milo and Otis was filmed in Japan.
Yeah, and apparently the animals weren't treated so well.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem, I guess.
Yeah.
But ready to move on?
The only thing I'll say, I hate bringing this up, but like Chise at the end of this episode again is like a damsel in distress for like at least like 3 out of the first 4 episodes. At some point, she's been like a damsel in distress, and it's just like I want her to just like tap into her own powers pretty soon. Like I want to see her realize like her power. Because it was really cool when she was walking up to like the big malice, the black thing, and like she had her robe and she like looked like she was very powerful, and I was like, okay, I can't wait until she like unleashes that power. So.
No spoiler, but just keep your hopes on the low side.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a slow moving show, so we'll see.
All right.
So yeah, you got the next one.
Blood, Blockade, Battlefront, and beyond. It's turned out to be really good. They're giving Chain a lot of screen time, and she's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I do like her as a character.
Yeah. Did you ever get to watch the first season?
I'm like almost done with it, and then I'm going to catch up on everything and then over the next week or so.
Okay. So episode 3, day in, day out. We open with, I'm going to try to pronounce this. We open with Count Gigflutamassif walking through the streets. He's also reportedly the largest creature in the city. Leonardo bumps into some guys and they take him to a back alley to pummel him, and like he sees Chain going flying by and he's happy until she looks at him and then just ignores him and moves on, and he gets beat up and his wallet taken from him. So Steven also seems to be having a house party that night and received some calls from friends who are going to be bringing some stuff. Zap wakes up with a blonde hooker when another lady comes charging into the room yelling about her missing cat. The blonde hooker says it's probably already been eaten and is turning into doo-doo inside some monster's belly. What? This pisses off. Dude, that's what she said. This pisses off the other lady who chants a spell that removes the other woman's breasts and presumably kills her.
What? Man, this is awesome.
Dude, this show, it's uber violent, this show. There's just violence everywhere.
Yeah.
She then puts the spell on Zap's dick and says she will remove it until he finds her cat.
It's a good motivation, let's be honest.
Yeah, so believe me, he's panicked and he's really trying to find this cat. So Leonardo gets a stun baton and goes to confront the thugs who took his wallet earlier. Well, the thugs kick his ass and throw him out of the bar anyways. When the thugs come back in, they see Chain at the bar, and immediately the leader guy tries to hit on her. She plays along and challenges him to a drinking contest, saying he can do anything he wants to her if he wins. I mean, she says that, whatever. Of course, he's all for it, but is surprised when the whole bar starts throwing down bets on the two. Quickly into the drinking, he realizes he's probably being hustled.
Yeah.
But back at Steven's house party, everything is going great. Everybody's drinking and eating and having a good time. And then one of the guests is like out of beer and Steven goes to get more. When he turns his back, everybody's right arm turns into guns. They say they want to take him alive, but will fill him with holes if he makes a move. The thing is, Steven was already on to them. Earlier on, the lady made a slip up in their conversation when they first arrived. So Steven had already turned some of his blood into tiny needles and embedded itself in everybody's skin. He then causes it to freeze everybody, calling it Esmeralda Blood Freeze. He commends them for purchasing biological guns so they could get past the department's security, but Steven had noticed Larry's center of mass had been leaning to the left for the past 10 days, and he also noticed that Ellen had a distinct sweet-smelling grease specific to biological weapons on her. He then has his personal squad, quote, dispose of everybody. Back at the bar, Chain is still kicking the guy's ass in the game. She then steals both the thugs' wallets and disappears once she's won. The thugs have to pay but have no money. So the barkeeper says then he will have to take the payment from their bodies. They basically end up heads in jars.
Futurama style.
Yeah. Zap runs into Leonardo and begs him to use his godly eyes to find a cat. Apparently the girl who has cursed his freedom magnum, is what he called it, is named Tracy.
Freedom Magnum, that's pretty good.
To wrap things up, it seems Steven's maid had actually found the cat, and Zap and Leonardo then go riding away, and we see Leonardo's wallet in the hood of his hoodie. So apparently she's dropped that off. And also, I just want to note the ED feels very space dandy. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, and then just after the ED, there's a really short clip of Chain over the toilet, puking her guts up.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You hadn't seen that yet, so I'm sure that was kind of surprising.
That was a hell of an episode. I can't wait to watch that.
It's super action-packed. So it's episode 4, Werewolf Mission, called Chain Possible.
Chain Possible.
Yeah, so it seems there's a werewolf hit squad, and they attack some general in the beginning. They have an ability that allows them to dilute themselves from reality and basically become invisible and pass through objects. It's also an all-female group.
Cha-ching.
Yep, and Chain is in the squad. And it's funny that even though they cornered the general and fired 94 rounds, they never even hit him. We follow Chain a little bit after this, and she talks to one of the other girls about their tokens. You actually kind of get like a short introduction to all of them. They're all, hot in their own way. So she then listens to Leonardo have a conversation with Burger Boy, which is from season 1. She then gets a call from Steven telling her she can go home for the day. She goes back to her apartment, which is just fucking trashed. She has clothes lying everywhere, along with just bags and bags of garbage and an unaccountable amount of Blur Moon bottles everywhere.
Blur Moon?
Yes. This place is disgusting how they, so bad. So that general from earlier gets a call from some lady about how to kill the werewolves. The general then lays a trap, forcing the werewolf squad to infiltrate his compound and simultaneously shut down 4 computers at once. Klein shows up at Central Command with a picture of the woman the general was talking to. This person is called Velvet Reingheimer, and used to be part of the Werewolf Bureau. She has us out for the werewolves, apparently. She made a deal with a being called the King of Hypersensitivity, Zeodra. He's one of the 13 kings and has the ability to detect all light and sound, thus being a problem for Werewolf Squad. So they go to infiltrate this facility that launches a missile off, and they're trying to shut down the computers. Well, Velvet attacks Werewolf Squad and gets them all pinned down except for Chain. It seems Velvet is still not powerful enough to catch Chain, so it's a really long sequence battle. Basically, it's just Chain constantly diluting herself to such an extent that like the Velvet can't even find her anymore at this point. Chain ends up killing Velvet, and it releases the rest of the squad to shut down the computers and stopping the missile. But Chain diluted herself so much she can't make it back, and they have to enact a plan if this happens. They go to like a little safe, they grab something out, and Steven goes to her apartment, and like when they get there, he's like, what am I here for? And he just has his card and he has to walk in and say something, and he walks in and he's like, hello, and then this apparently pulls her back to reality instantly, and she's just like standing there, and she just throws the chair at him.
Nice.
It's you can't get too caught up in like the logistics or physics or why things work in the show. If you do, you're just going to kill yourself. You just have to enjoy the ride.
Nice.
But it was I am enjoying it as much as season 1. It's just, you're there for the ride, and it's just awesome, insane stuff happening. You're there for the action. The story's there. You know who your characters are and stuff, and like Chain's always kicking the shit out of Zap and stuff, and that's it. She does it every episode. It doesn't get old. I giggle every time. Every time Zap shows up to the office or she shows up, she has to have some excuse to knee him in the face. And every time I'm just like, it doesn't matter. But that's all I got for that. I can't wait for you to catch up, Bcom.
I will by the next podcast we do. I'm very close.
But we can move on to Land of Lustrous, episode 3, Metamorphos. Yep. But you have a quick note you want to...
Yeah, so before we discuss episode 3, I just wanted to thank a commenter who commented on our last podcast, Giovanna Popa on YouTube, who cleared up my confusion about like the cleavage comment from episode 2, where like the doc was talking about like, oh, I need to check Jade's cleavage, and I thought it was like, just like a shitty line, but like they told me like, oh no, this could be referring to gemstone cleavage, which like gemstone cleavage is the idea of like, or it's a characteristic of crystals that is like like cleavage is like the tendency of a crystal to break cleanly along distinct planes. So this was more of a double entendre instead of just like a shitty like a line out of place, which makes it like way better in my opinion. So I was really happy that they cleared that up. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and I'm checking notifications. I didn't know we've had quite a few comments. We want to read those.
Yeah, you can go back through them. Yeah.
Yep.
We got some good comments. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Finally, people talking to us.
We really appreciate when you guys comment, even if it's like we hated this episode. I love comments like that too. If you hated
something, we want to know. All right. The battle continues, and Diamond, they call her Dia in the show, starts to notice some green showing in the cracks of the snail. They start to attack these spots and eventually knock it into the water. Well, this is salt water, and we know what happens when you mix snails with salt. Or slugs. They shrivel up. Except this one just shrinks into a cute version, the kawaii version.
Emphasis on cute. This thing is so cute.
The girl who knew you can make a slug/snail cute. Well, I mean, I guess they made slimes cute, so nothing's impossible.
Yeah, nothing's impossible for Japan.
The girls search the shell of the snail and can't find any trace of Phos. They think Phos might be in the small cute snail and take it to Rutil or whoever to see if she can do anything. Diamond gets her arm fixed, and before Rutil can cut into the creature, Diamond runs off with it. Diamond believes at this point the creature is Phos somehow. This makes for some comedy as Diamond goes around asking all the girls for some idea to get Phos back to normal. Through the whole thing, Diamond finds out that nobody really cares for Phos and that much, and she really had nothing to contribute to their society. So, like, why? There's some pretty good comedy bits. Cinnabar goes out on her nightly security sweep and comes across a light, believing it to be Lunarians. When she gets to the light, she finds Diamond asleep in the grass. Phos is momentarily missing, but is found quickly. The slug's snail. Yeah. Cinnabar is confused until Diamond explains to her what happened. Cinnabar then explains that snails eat rocks and breaks them down to strengthen their shells. Dia then realizes that they need to carve out the mint green fragments from the snail shell to save Phos. And there's also a lot of Cinnabar wanting to hate Phos, but she's deeply moved by her after their last encounter. Diamond makes it back and hands off the snail to Bort before getting everybody together and pulling up the snail shell. They excavate all the pieces and give them the Rutil to put back together. Phos then wakes up and immediately goes after the snail because she's pissed at it for eating her. After a little of this, Phos starts to have a conversation with the snail, and then Phos is surprised when nobody else can understand the snail.
Yeah, that was such a, oh man, I love that friggin' snail so much. It was making like the cutest like motions, and I was like, oh, this snail can't get any better. And then the next episode happened. Like, so yeah, episode 4 is called Soul, Flesh, and Bone. And so Phos can now, unfortunately for her, communicate with this snail, and she's the only one who can. The snail creature's name is Ventricosis. And its people, she has a people, were hunted by the Lunarians for their shells, kind of like how the gems are hunted for their like gems. Everyone thinks Phos is crazy since she's the only one who can talk to Ventricosis, so she's kind of pissed. But this snail is apparently pretty horny as well, and she's like, I'm really into all these cuties around here. And she's like, I especially like the stuck-up types like Cinnabar and Bort. But the one that she actually really falls for is the sensei. But Phos realizes she's been saved for a second time by Cinnabar, who figured out that she was trapped inside the shell, and so she feels like she owes her more than ever. And so Phos and Ventricosis go to the sensei and report back, and she's told to just keep the snail with her as part of her encyclopedia duties. And she tries to ask him if there's anything they can do for Cinnabar. Like, can she do anything besides the night watch? And he's like, even I don't really have an answer for this. Just as an aside, throughout this episode, I'm kind of starting to get annoyed with how often the sensei just head pats everybody. It's just constant head pats. And it just like, Whenever I see a head pat in anime, yeah, I don't know. Whenever I see a head pat in anime, I think like harem, because like it almost always happens in like harem or like pseudo harem anime where there's like one guy who's just head patting a lot of different girls all the time, and it's just like, I don't know about this. But other than that, it's pretty like it's not a problem or anything. But so he tells her, though, tells Fos, like, just finish your survey of the hills. Don't lose focus on like Cinnabar or like Ventricosis. Just finish what you're doing. And so she goes back, but Ventricosis is like, I remember seeing somebody who looked a lot like you gems, like underwater. You should come with me back to my home. Like, just forget what he said. Like, we should go and try and find that person. And so she can't like really resist that. And once they get underwater, Ventricosis transforms into a very lewd, like jellyfish type thing, like with a body that has like built-in like frilly skirt to hide all of her like tentacles, and then like a seashell bra, and like I think Fos is like, you're very jiggly, because like it's true, like when she moves around, her breasts keep like jiggling.
They even have a whole conversation about her boobs.
Yeah, she's like, what are like Fos is like, what are even those? I don't even have those things. She's like, oh, these. She lifts up her breast. She's like, oh, these are my most precious parts. So most importantly, Ventricosis says that humans came before their kind, and like the old stories of her kind say that like after some kind of catastrophic event, like the earth waned for like the 6th time in its history, and humans were split into 3 different species and when they evolved to survive. So this is where the soul, the flesh, and the bone title for this episode comes from, because Ventricosis's people, it's said, their names are the Admirabilis or Admirabilis, I don't know. They supposedly came from the flesh part of the humanity, and so they live and they die and they reproduce like humans do. And it said that there were other people who descended from the bones, and they gained longer lifespans and they lived above the water. And, Fos's ears kind of perk up at that, because she's like, that sounds a lot like us. That sounds like the gems. Maybe we're descended from the bones. And then if there's only one other thing left, and the soul apparently found at new lands and now seeks out the flesh and the bones to try and bring about a revival of humanity. And of course, they both think, well, that only fits with the Lunarians, but like, why are they trying to bring us back into the fold? I don't know. But like, what's her name? Ventricosis says like, yeah, but you look at the Lunarians and how greedy they are and how quick they are to fight and have conflict, and it makes you think about what humanity was before it evolved into these 3 different forms. Then in the end, Fos is like, well, we should probably work together, at least, like us, flesh and bones, because like we get along. And Ventricosa is like, yeah, that sounds good, okay. But then they arrive at their destination, and Ventricosa tells her like, by the way, I also have somebody I care for, just like you care for Cinnabar. And at that moment, Lunarians out of nowhere open fire on Fos under the water, and like they hit her, they like break part of her leg off and a couple other pieces. And Ventricosis like tells the Lunarians, I offer you like my companion here in exchange for my brother Aculeatus. And so she's just giving up Fos. This was all like a ruse. She's giving Fos to the Lunarians to try and get her brother back. Yeah. So yeah.
My only question is, how did she communicate with them?
With the Lunarians? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think about that. Like, because we haven't seen the Lunarians can communicate with the gems ever before, at least.
No, and the snail has been in somebody's vicinity the entire time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, okay, but like the Lunarians originally brought her to attack. Yeah. So maybe before she came here, she figured out.
Thing I could think of would be what would change that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I just liked, this was a good way to do an exposition dump, because it feels like it's coming from a friend, but it's actually coming from an enemy. And I liked that. But yeah, I wonder how Fos is going to get out of this one. We'll see.
I don't know. I haven't seen the next episode either.
I haven't either. I just continue to love Fosa's body language. Like, she just, like, there's various times in this episode where she just, like, is on her knees and then puts her face against the ground and has her butt sticking up in the air, and she's just, like, completely defeated. It's just really funny.
Yeah, this show looks so good, and that goes with what you're saying right now. Like, these animators really did some research into, you know, how people move and react, or they're just experienced with doing this. But
yeah.
As CGI shows go, this is the best CGI show I've seen yet.
Yeah, it just really looks very natural almost all the time. Really looks fantastic.
Before I do the outro, I want to ask you about what you think about our top 6 consensus picks. Do you think we should change them up? And I'll just quickly list them. Number 1 was Kino's Journey. 2, Land of the Lustrous. 3, Juuni Taisen. 4, Ancient Magus Bride. 5, Recovery of an MMO Junkie. And number 6, Inuyashiki, The Last Hero. Would you change any of that up?
Thinking about what else is on, like, I still haven't gotten too far ahead in, like, shows that we didn't pick, but, like, I'm definitely very confident in at least 5 of those 6, with Inuyashiki being the only one where I'm like, but, like, really? But Inuyashiki is so freaking interesting that it's like, why would we not talk about this show?
Would you change any other positions? Like, I would definitely move Recovery of an MMO Junkie from 5 to 3 easily, and I could argue definitely 2 or 1.
Yeah, I would move Kino's down a little bit just after these last 2 episodes, because they were too straightforward for Kino for me. Like, after watching the original, I would maybe even move. Juuni Taisen is kind of good where it is. Ancient Magus Bride would probably go up to 2. Land of the Lustrous would be 1, and then I think Recovery of MMO would be like 3 or 4 with Juuni Taisen for me. And then Kino's at like 5 for now, and then Inuyashiki at 6. But I'm hoping that Kino will move up because you said it gets good the next couple episodes. So. Oh
yeah, Kino gets specifically the next one, and then the one after that I thought was still good. But is there anything else you want to talk about or add before we end?
No, that's it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and other for updates as well. I'll see everybody hopefully next week.
And don't worry, we removed all of the microtransactions from the podcast.
And also, Bcom said he would get this put up on YouTube tonight. So let's see if we hold him to that or not.
Damn it, Leo. All right. Peace.
Peace.